Welcome to the Parts Party. I'm Adriana,
And I'm Ella.
and this is your invitation to hang out with us and our beautiful guests as we explore the lived experience of internal family systems. We want to share in our common humanity as humans who have multiple parts within us, so we can show you what it really is to honour this model of therapy in our own lives. This is a place for IFS nerds, therapists, enthusiasts, or just anyone who wants to get to know their parts and their self a little better.
So grab a soft drink for your little ones, a tea for your manager parts, and maybe something fancy for your firefighter parts. Because all parts are welcome.
Jenny Fiebig is a certified IFS therapist, approved clinical consultant, and trainer for the IFS Institute, based in Colorado in the States. She specialises in treating outdoor and backcountry trauma, supporting survivors of avalanches, river accidents, and wilderness-related losses. With over a decade of experience as a professional wilderness guide for organisations like the National Outdoor Leadership School and Second Nature Wilderness Program, she integrates parts work with the natural world. Through her private practice and her SOAR program, she leads experiential wilderness therapy retreats designed to help adults and clinicians heal trauma in outdoor settings. Welcome to the Parts Party, Jenny.
Thanks. I appreciate you all inviting me to be here. And was like, wait, who's that? Who are you reading from? Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you want to share a little bit more about how IFS came into your world?
So I went to grad school in Montana State, and after grad school was invited to work at a group practice. And so this group practice took new grads and then moved them through their licensure program. We'd study different theories throughout the years that we were there. Like we studied coherence theory and CBT and DBT and theories that were pretty popular at the time. And one guy brought in this IFS thing, and, and we're all like, this sounds kind of wacky, but we'll try it. So we started studying books and had just recently come out with the Circle program. And so we listened to that and we decided let's all do a level one training together. All five of us went to a level one when you could actually get in, and they were trying to fill them. so
Wow.
so my trainer or our trainer was Barb Cargill and Mona Barbera was our AT. And so we went through that level 1 and all of us fell in love with IFS and moved most of the group practice to focus just on IFS. And so I felt pretty fortunate that I learned from my level 1 and then we as a group brought it back and continued it and worked with the model, did consultation for, 2 to 3 hours a week with cases, and so it just felt like I was really able to get it into my bones after the level 1, even though it was still challenging for me, and I'll share more about that, 'cause I still had parts that were pretty dissociated trying to get it right. So after that level 1, Barb had invited one of us to come and be a PA with the first ever veteran center training up in New Hampshire. And so that kind of got me on my path to PA and then moving into the trainer world. So that's how I got into it.
Would have been lovely to have, the group sort of start at the same
Mm,
time and kind of muddle through it and work it out together. That would have been lovely because often it's one person bringing back this
yeah.
new weird thing and kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easy to lose it. It's easy to go
Mm.
back into what you know, what you're used to
Mm.
working, and so it was nice to have support around continuing to try this new thing and integrate it. So, yeah, I felt so fortunate to have the support of that group.
Yeah, so special to be figuring it out together.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. And what was it like shifting into that more systemic perspective of having parts?
It was challenging. Well, challenging and relieving at the same time. It felt relieving. I remember, and I share this in level 1 trainings all the time, but in grad school, I remember professors talking about don't do transference and countertransference. And so I'd ask, "Well, how?" And they wouldn't give me an answer, and they're like, "Well, just go to therapy or something." I'm like, "Okay." So so IFS finally answered that question and helped me to focus on my wounding, what happened to me and how I'm getting activated and blending with the wounding of my clients. So it really helped me to learn how to start working with my part so that I can work with my clients' parts. And seeing somebody through the lens of multiplicity was also very relieving. I have a very strong figure it out part and a very strong dissociator and a very strong critic. And so
Mm.
those parts, it took me years to really work with them, to unblend with them in the therapy room. I got pretty discouraged. I'm like, I'll never unblend from these parts in the therapy room, or, is it possible for me to? So
Mhm.
that was my challenge post level one.
Did you know them as parts straight away, or is it more just an experience?
Yeah, it was more of an experience because even in level 1, I was so dissociated. Well, first of all, I didn't know I was dissociating most of my life, and finally having that pointed out, but it was so strong, and, of course, when I blank out in session, I then panic because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I need to give them something. I need to." My critic would be like, "What's wrong with you? You're a bad therapist. Hurry up and find something to give them so that,
Mm.
you don't look like an idiot here, like, trying to do
Mm.
therapy." The strong protection was so familiar to me. I knew there were parts, but then I questioned that, but then they take over and I'm like, "I don't know what to do here." But then the critic would come in, and it's like, "You're bad. See, you can't even do IFS on you." And so it's just such a like a whirlwind.
And when you did start to know them as parts and start to be able to unblend in session, would you do that out loud at times, or was it always an internal process which your client would not have been aware of?
I had so much shame around it in the beginning that I wouldn't name it with my clients in the beginning. As I journeyed along with these parts and started to learn how to work with them more, I started sharing that more with my clients when it felt appropriate. So now when I sit with clients, it is such a different experience, and I can notice when I dissociate or notice my critic. And if I'm seeing something similar with my client, I can use my experience to be with them and share my experience in order to deepen their experience. But in the beginning, I had too much shame and fear around that disclosure. I wouldn't name it.
Yeah, it's both confronting and freeing IFS, isn't it? Because even,
Yeah.
the level 1, it's so experiential. It's very much you're experiencing the model, not just so that
Mhm.
you can use it on your clients, but you're using it on yourself in the training. And same, bringing it to supervision or bringing it to like that U-turn in session where you go, oh yeah, there's this part of me that feels so much shame or dissociates, and this one that criticizes me when I dissociate, and learning at first it's like, oh, this is really confronting facing all this stuff. But then
Yeah.
ultimately it kind of frees you to go, oh, yeah, these are my parts, and I can actually help them relax back a little bit, and it can help me better serve my clients.
Yeah, because we're not taught dual awareness, or at least I wasn't
Mm,
taught dual
mm,
awareness in the US or in grad school. And yeah, and it was disorienting at first because I'm like, oh, I have so much to work with in here, but then I have
mm,
to focus on the other person. And with that practice now and that learned skill of dual awareness, it's a really
mm.
freeing and relieving place to be with clients.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, because when you start to learn to think in systems, you're also holding a dual awareness of their whole system and your whole system. Your brain's suddenly able to split into all of these different perspectives at once.
Mhm.
Hold that awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be disorienting.
absolutely.
Mhm. I wanted to know a bit more about as you started to understand them as parts, like how they showed up. Was it more
Mm.
somatic? Do you get images? Do you hear their voices? What's it like inside for you, Jenny?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it's shifted and changed. In the beginning, it was more of a somatic experience. Like my dissociator was a very somatic experience, and my panic and terror was very somatic. Like I just felt it all through my body. But the critic, The critic was like words in my head, and I could feel its energy up there, criticizing, criticizing, criticizing. That energy would then activate the not good enough shame, and that would just land so heavy in my body. So a lot of it was very somatic. I hired Barb Cargill as a therapist because I got picked to do a demo with her and felt so safe with her. She was really the first therapist I'd ever had that I felt safe with and would allow into my system. So when I was working with her, my parts started somatically, but then they shifted into more of like a visual, at least the parts that could speak. But then, of course, the ones that couldn't, which were harder to access, were much more somatic. They were pre-verbal. So now most of my system, I have to access them more somatically. And then as they build trust with me and with my self energy, or, at the time, Barb's self energy, then they would shift into more of like I could see them and see them spatially because my system needed a lot of space.
Yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon that lots of people say, "Oh, this one's in front here, this one's more
Mm.
behind here on the
Mhm.
left, or this
Mhm.
one's down here." It's interesting spatially how they come.
Yeah.
Mm.
Are they more like little Jennies, or are they symbolized by other things?
Oh, good question. Uh, my exiles are definitely little Jennies. The protectors, they're so creative, and, they shift and change. I'm from US culture, and we have a very very militaristic, like, way of seeing the world, and, some of my parts show up. I love this phrase from Bill Plotkin with the Animus Institute that parts are loyal soldiers, and so
Mm.
some of my parts show up as, like, very protective, masculine, strong parts, and then others show up as figures or energy or nature even. So, it's a quite a world in there.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I'm just reflecting on my own system. Often my exiles are little Adrianas or little versions of me at different ages. But then, yeah, protectors do. They take on these different roles or characters, or they don't necessarily just look like a younger version of me. Even though, of course, in a sense they are. But yeah, when you're interacting with them, they do take on this different energy. Hmm.
Yeah, and I love their development. The deeper they trust, the more they show themselves and allow themselves to shift and change and soften even, like, go from this really strong. I remember working in one of my sessions, and a part came up as this big, scary monster that I was, another part was terrified of, and as we worked with it, it got to be this really soft, gentle, loving, caring part.
Gorgeous. Yeah, I had that the other day. I couldn't really tell if too much was happening for the client, but they were with kind of this red inflamed
Mhm.
part. And I sort of just checked in. They said, "Oh, it's blue now." I'm like, "Oh, nice. Something's
Yeah.
something's moving, something's
Yeah.
happening." Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it is that amorphous quality and that constant transforming or transformation that can happen when you pay attention to them. They kind of get
Yeah.
fixed when they think, I have to be in this role. But you talk to them even a little bit, and sometimes they can quite quickly start to shift or really
Yeah.
dramatically transform if you've really got their trust.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I just finished the first part of a level 1 here in Western Australia, which was so fortunate to be a part of. And so we talked a lot about, we need co-regulation outside of us. I mean, it's a human need to connect. And our parts need co-regulation with self-energy. When they finally get that connection, that attunement, they can start to show themselves in different ways. And they're like, oh, I don't have to be focused all on the outside and protect. Like, I can actually connect with who I am protecting or who I thought I was protecting. So
Mhm.
it's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah, inner secure attachment. We're not, of
Mhm.
course, we need other people, but we're not dependent on that for those needs. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm. And Jenny, do you have any examples of a trailhead or a tormentor from your own life that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Do you have all day? We've got so many.
Mm.
Um, I had a recent experience, which was quite lovely, actually. So I've had a couple incidences on rivers where I've almost lost my life. I love rivers and I love being with them and on them and moving along with them. And I still have PTSD and panic that comes up when I'm rowing my own craft and going through harder whitewater. And so it's kind of a combination of some experiences that I've worked with on the river itself. But most recently, my husband and I just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary and back in May. And it's also in conjunction with my birthday, which is a few days before. And he's always like, "Do you want to throw a big party, to celebrate you and I?" And I'm like, "No, I want to go isolate ourselves and go into the backcountry." And so, so every year we try to do a river trip or go out into the backcountry. So this year we did a 10-day trip on the San Juan River, and I was in my I'll just call it a kayak. It's called a pack raft, but I won't go into all the details of the difference. It's my own craft, and then he was rowing a gear boat. So I was like, okay, this trip, I really want to work with my fear and my panic that comes up around whitewater. So paddling up to the first rapid, like, I can already feel it right now, like, panic is starting to come into my chest and my throat is constricting, and my vision goes from seeing this beautiful rapid where there's options to where's the danger and how am I gonna die? And so it's like this vivid shift in vision even. I told Mike, I was like, "Hey, can you just pause and let's just eddy out up here before we go in, and I just need to work with my system." So I noticed like a panic in my chest, and so I stayed with it. And there's also like an anger in my chest. So I stayed with the panic and I stayed with the anger, and the anger started to emerge quite a bit more. And so I checked in with the anger. I'm like, "What is it that you need right now?" And it's like, you need more distance from Mike because you have other parts that are so focused on caretaking him that you neglect yourself and don't pay attention to your panic. So I was like, okay. So I was like, "Mike, I'm going to go across the river and work with what I need to." And he's like, okay, whatever. I then was able to work with my panic. The panic was like, "You're going to die. This is terrifying. Look at all the reasons why you could get really hurt here. So don't do this rapid." I was talking to it. I was like, "Thank you. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for trying to help me. And can I show you who I am? Like, I'm not that 20-year-old that didn't have any experience that fell in. And this is a very different situation. I've got PFD on. I've got my husband over there who's a very skilled whitewater and very safe. And this rapid is only like a class 2 or 3, like, it's not beyond that. And I have the skills to make all the moves in this rapid. And so the panic started to subside, and then I also kinda updated some other parts like, "Hey, I'm 46 now, like, I'm not naive like I used to be." And it was fascinating the rest of the trip. I had space, like, they were still with me. There was still nervousness and anxiety, but it wasn't taking over my body. And usually when I'm on a river in my own craft, I'm behind Mike and following him and needing him to be in charge, the leader. And this trip, I was like, "Mike, I wanna go first on all the rapids." It's like, I loved his companionship, but I didn't lean on him for security. So the trip was brighter. Like, I'd get to rapids and I'd be excited about them, and I mean, still nervous, but excited, and, like, my vision, I could see the rapids in a very, very different way rather than from that panicked part. That's one example of many.
So sweet. I've got a tear. That was just so lovely to hear how you were with that panicked one. It was so beautiful. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. They just wanna keep us safe, right? And not let us
Yeah.
get hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm such a chicken shit with stuff like that. I would I couldn't do it. Like, I'm even scared of, like, blood tests, like, so I have to, like, imagine my little two-year-old, she's on my knee, I'm like, "Don't look, baby, like, I'm here, I've got this."
Mhm. I'm curious about your experience of conversing with your parts and what that was like, kind of hearing its information and being able to talk to it. Because I feel like it's often a lot easier when you are in session to have a therapist
Yeah,
with all their self
yeah.
energy and all of their experience to help guide that process along. It's trickier to translate that outside of the
Mhm.
therapy room and talk to your parts by yourself. What was that like for you to be able to connect with a part in that way? Is that something that took time to be able to cultivate that kind of relationship and trust with your parts where they can actually speak with you freely and you can respond to them and they hear you
Mhm.
and take in what you're saying?
Yeah, I still have difficulty outside of the therapy room, especially if I'm in a conflict with my husband or in a conflict with my family. I get overwhelmed by my parts and, I lose I get so blended with them. And, I can take a step after and say, okay, what was happening for me in that moment? And how can I return to relationship now? It took me a while, even in session, like I said earlier, because I was so blended with parts, it was hard to get that traction or to get that connection with them. So for me, it was places where I had more access to self energy, like in nature and wilderness. I had a lot more access to be able to engage with my parts. We were just talking about this the other day in the training, quoting this from Mike Elkin, and I'm gonna get it messed up, but, he's like, "If you need therapy, you go to a therapist. If you need more therapy, maybe you go to therapy twice a week. And if you need more, then you become a therapist." And so I I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I can relate.
Yeah. But we sit in these chairs all day long with clients, and we have the opportunity, more so than many others, to really be with our parts because we're in it all day long. So I do see like the healing chair, the chair that we sit in, as an opportunity, session after session after session, to be with our parts and to practice that. So for me, it's nature, being in wilderness where I can have access to engaging with my parts, and then, of course, being in the therapy chair,
Mm.
or the healing chair, however people speak about what they do. But yeah, it was difficult at first because, soon after the level one, I'm like, this is still kind of wacky, and
Mm,
I'm supposed to talk to myself, and my parts wouldn't engage at first because, I was trying to engage with them from a get it right part or a figure it out part, or my critic who had the most power in the system was engaging with parts. And so it took a while to unblend enough to have a crack of self energy to start to have the parts feel a different experience. And that's where nature was really um, kind of like my inroad to having them start to talk back to me.
mm.
Nice. And so, nature, the therapy chair, it brings access to self energy.
Mhm.
What's self energy like when you have that access?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's different in different environments. When I'm sitting with clients, I use flow state, that terminology. Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, I think he's the one who quoted that. So for me, flow state really resonates because it's like this reciprocal, it's beyond me. So when I'm sitting with clients, I feel this freedom with them, not this urgent need to fix or change or do. And I can really just be with their parts. And so it's like a openness in my chest. And I can feel when parts come in because there's like a slight bit of pressure and a slight bit of anxiety and like even a slight bit of leaning forward. Not that I don't lean forward with my clients. Yeah, just a tightness in here that I feel when parts come in. And yeah, when I feel that flow state with clients, when the parts have relaxed enough, yeah, it's like this beautiful presence. I think that's the best way I can put it. And then I can see their parts, like I can see the character development within their system and energy that starts to come out. I use the example for snowboarding. I'm a snowboarder. When I'm on my board and I'm not thinking about technique, like having that manager come in like, "Oh, you should bend your knees. You should, be centered." And when I can let those go, it's like I can feel the flow of the mountain. My body is moving with the mountain, and the mountain is moving with me, and I can feel the snow. I can sense the trees around me and feel the difference of powder snow and then like hard packed snow. And so just yeah, like it's freedom. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. But I love how self energy changes. Like meeting a rageful client, like I can engage my self energy to be like a bigger energy to hold them. Meeting a young exile that's pre-verbal that just needs attunement, I can shift the energy to meet it in the way that it needs. And
Mm.
yeah, it's hard to describe. It's such an embodied
Mm,
experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
mm.
trick question because it is an experience more than words, but It's beautiful just hearing people talk about that and, yeah, being with you as you described going down that mountain. How gorgeous. Mm.
Mm. I just felt this emptiness, this spaciousness that just has this quality of presence to it, but there's not much else. As you said, it's like when you feel the pressure coming in or this movement going out or something, that there's this sense that there's a part, but self kind of just is all of it, contains all of it, and doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
need to move itself. But then I'm
Mhm.
also hearing when you start describing how much you love adventure sports, it's like this quality of that self. It's rather than moving from a place of constraint, it's almost moving from this place of freedom. Or I don't know. Again, I don't know how to describe it. And I'm also chicken shit like you, Ella. And I feel like it's a very Aussie thing for us to say that we're chicken shit. But a close friend of mine, she's rock climber and an outdoor rock climber, and also skis and snowboards and loves all of the adrenaline sports. And yeah, there's some quality that I don't quite understand because that's it's not where my system goes, but it's some ability for you to connect with self in that way, or maybe I don't want to speak for you. What's your experience?
It's like it's almost like dancing with the mountain or dancing with the
Mm,
river. It's like,
mm,
finding that flow. You mentioned in the intro, I work with outdoor trauma, and so individuals who have been through a traumatic experience, and a lot of folks that I have worked with either go into more, I'm gonna go into an extreme version of skiing,
mm,
or I'm
mm,
gonna avoid it altogether.
mm,
Those experiences cause that person to disconnect from the natural world
mm,
and to see it as a threat instead of this ability to connect with it. My hope is I can help to get that person back in connection with the natural world so that they can in turn speak for it and protect it. Because we need as many
Mhm.
voices as possible to protect our natural world. Because I lost that connection with nature or with rivers, and it took me many years to start to feel the self energy of the river again. And there's a lot to grieve there. And so I want others who know what it feels like to dance with the natural world to find their way back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, personal healing, but also then bringing that into being a spokesperson or
Mhm.
advocate for nature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
needs us pretty desperately right now.
It really does. Can I share a little story from my life that happened, I think it was last week or the week before, I'm not sure I showed you the
Yeah.
photo, Adriana. There's this beautiful tree, in a suburb near to me next to a school. It was absolutely huge, probably about 80 years old, and went right across the road, creating shade for all the kids, and now a
oh,
developer wanted to chop it down and put a pool on the property, just for an investment property, not even his dream home. And for 5 months, the community came out and were campaigning and going to court, but it ended up getting chopped down. They rushed it through as
Oh,
soon as they could.
oh.
I went there, just at the last minute and sat there with just 4 other people, and we just said, "We're not moving," and the police were lovely, and they were just like, "Please get up because
Oh.
if you don't, we're gonna have to arrest you, and we have to carry you, and if we have to carry you, we're gonna arrest you," and I just checked in with my parts and I thought, "You know what? I've never had a criminal record. I think I can take that. I don't think it's gonna be very serious." I didn't move, and they picked me up, and there was this kookaburra sitting in the tree, even though there was chainsaws and cherry pickers,
Oh.
and it wouldn't leave, and it just broke my heart, and so there was 3 police, they've got me, like, arm, and my legs, and, like, I was bawling, I was screaming, "I'm sorry, tree," and I was, genuinely crying, there was a part grieving, and there was
mm.
another part going, "Oh, this is kind of fun actually being carried by 3 people away." And there was a part that's kinda rushing, like, "Oh my god, what's gonna happen when they put me down? Am I gonna get arrested?" It was so interesting to just be with
Oh.
authentically with a few different parts all at once in such an extreme experience, but, I'm on the
Mm.
front of the Cairns Post, which is a bit embarrassing.
That's amazing.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Oh, and so
Mm.
sad they chopped the tree down. I'm
Mm.
crying. I'm tearing up for that too.
Yeah, it
Oh.
really is, and hopefully it becomes something that brings awareness to other significant trees in the
Mhm.
community where we can change some policy, but
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for the fight. I love
Mm.
that you got arrested.
Oh,
I
Well,
love
they
you consulting with your system going, "No,
Yeah.
I can
yeah.
take it."
well,
Yeah,
they
totally.
actually put me down on the ground and said, "Well, stay there," and then went back to get the next person. I just quickly, like, went off and drove away. So I don't think they were particularly interested in actually arresting me, so it was yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's even better. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, my rebellious parts liked that little sneak off for sure.
Mm.
I did some training with you, Jenny, and you had that beautiful map of exiles that are accessible, that you could meet more easily, and then
Mhm.
ones that were dissociated or pre-verbal. And I was curious how that came to be understood by you. And yeah, is that a personal
Yeah.
experience that you've had? Hmm.
Yeah, so I teach neglect from an IFS perspective, and it's a personal journey for me because I do have such a deep, I call it like my deep black hole in my system that is so hard to access. And I've rarely accessed it actually in my own work. My figure it out part just didn't understand why. It's like, oh, you have this IFS tool, why can't you get there? So it just kind of took me on a journey of studying about neglect. I mean, there's so much that there's so much to it. And I want to preface with I have a loving family. I know that I'm loved and I know that we did the best that we can. But I think like neglect and misattunement and the absence of presence is such a cultural experience and such an embodied, learned way of attuning, at least in my family, that got passed down for many, many, many generations. And so we're all swimming in a sea of misattunement and neglect without really knowing it, at least
Mm.
in my family, and instead engage in behaviors and absence. And so, I really look at these deep or very early experiences of I know that my parents did the best that they could, but they didn't know how to emotionally attune to an infant or to a young child. And so that has pretty consequential effects on the nervous system development and the brain development. So I look at that deep black hole as my self energy wasn't watered by my parents. Like, I think we're all born with self energy, but I do think we need to have it watered in our environment to help it to grow. So instead of self energy growing, it was kind of constrained and instead there is a deep emptiness and despair. Absence of presence or neglect or misattunement don't have words. It's the lack of narrative, it's the lack of what happened. And so that emptiness was so hard, is still hard to access. But then that black hole drives, and I'm dissociated from it so I can actually navigate the world, which thank you,
Hmm.
dissociators, because I
Oh.
can't navigate the world from a deep collapse.
Yeah.
But then I look at the on top of that, 4, 5, 6-year-old exiles that do have the ability to speak, but they're driven by such emptiness underneath them that when self energy or my self energy has tried to connect with them, they're compliant. They're like, "Yeah, what do you want from me? What do you need?" And when self energy has tried to be like, "I wanna know you," they shut down and try to be a good caretaker, try to be a good child, but it wouldn't take in self energy. So these little ones have a hard time trusting that self energy is there for them rather than them being
Mhm.
there for whatever's in front of
Mm.
them. It took me a while to get the trust of these little exiles that they are actually cared for and they don't have to change or be what's expected of them. So for me, my little ones, they need lots and lots of space and time and very slow, 1 second at a time, just attuning to their constantly changing, like,
Mhm.
fear, terror, anger, but I can't be angry, I'm scared, and I don't know what do I do? What do you need? So my exiles, the accessible ones, take time, like many,
Mm.
many sessions to finally connect with. And that shifted now, but I still haven't quite accessed there's still that deep emptiness there. I don't think it's quite as big as it used to be. I think self energy has somehow slipped in there,
Mm.
um, but it's still very, very protected and guarded.
Makes a lot
Hmm.
of sense to me. I think it's Pia Mellody talks about parent-child and the energy going the wrong way, where the little one has
Yeah.
to kind of
Mm.
send the energy to the parent. And I'm
Mm.
kinda hearing that was what's happening inside with self-energy and some of those accessible exiles that have to
Hmm.
put that energy outwards rather than it being
Yeah.
easy to receive.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like that.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's giving me a lot to reflect on. One way I've often thought about it, you use the metaphor of needing it to be watered, even though your self energy is there. I often kind of see it as we innately have, we have self qualities. We come into this world because we want it mirrored back to us. We want someone to go,
Hmm.
oh my God, look at how beautiful you are, whatever the energy is. And you kind of come into the world expecting it to be mirrored back. And then it's such a
Yes.
shock when what you think is a mirror is looking at you with, as you said, misattunement, or even worse, if it's some sort of hate or abuse, or whatever it may be. What you think is going to get mirrored back to you, you suddenly get this message, "Oh, I'm not what I thought I was," and
Mm.
that's a
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
painful thing for us to be carrying inside. Um,
Absolutely.
what you call the accessible exiles, and then the less accessible, more collapsed exiles. Either one can take time, and I
Hmm.
think our society, and especially other therapies as well, can really be really impatient. To put it
Yes.
nicely,
Hmm.
we expect
Hmm.
progress to be really quick, and it can be kind of humbling to realize, oh, sometimes these parts, what they need, genuinely just takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Hmm.
And this message that, like, I am in it for the long haul with you,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I'm not going anywhere. And
Yeah.
that can be really powerful when the parts kinda get that message and realize it's true.
Yeah.
But it can also be frustrating because I think we all have a lot of parts of us that go, "No, but I wanna be fixed now.
Yeah.
I wanna be better
Exactly.
today, not potentially years from now." But that's
Yeah.
kind of what life is, right? Often it can be connecting to parts and really slowly building trust.
And we're navigating, well, I'll speak to the US and I won't speak for Australia. In the US, we're navigating a very burdened mental health system and
Yeah.
that expects results, expects progress. And the messages that we receive from the external system, if we're not doing it right, it's we're not good enough. And what's wrong with us that our clients not getting healed. And so all the responsibility falls on us, right?
Mm.
And then that activates our parts. And then my figure it out part, my critic, my judging my client part starts to come out and stops that healing from happening.
Mm,
Or even writing my progress note, I'm like, how can I change my IFS language to
mm,
adapt to CBT language that the insurance
mm,
company would agree with? And how can
mhm,
I prove that I'm making progress? And
mm,
and so we're navigating that system as well as how we've learned to attach and to sit with a client that is not trusting either. It's a complicated system we're we're navigating and working with.
It really is, and just such a privilege to be able to do longer term therapy
Yeah.
as the client that you do have to have some resources to be able to do that. That's obviously not available
Yeah.
to everyone and
Yeah.
unfortunately not to those who need it most, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Jenny, I'm really mindful of how early it is in WA at the
Okay.
moment, so we don't wanna keep you too much longer. We invite our guests to leave us with a quote or a poem. Is that something you're open to?
There's one I always share in level 1 trainings, and I'll see if I can remember it off the top of my head. It's very short, and Anais Nin says, "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom."
mm.
I just think that's such a beautiful, beautiful metaphor for this IFS work that we
Mm.
offer for ourselves and for the world around us, and
The
yeah.
willingness of our wonderful protectors to
Mm,
be able to let us bloom. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. It's been a real gift to be with you like this.
It was just lovely to be with both of you.
Thank you for being part of the Parts Party with Adriana and Ella. We hope you enjoyed being with us, and we wish you many moments of self leadership. We'd love your support by liking, subscribing, sharing this podcast, and we hope to see you next time.